You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Curelop and Zeona McIntyre.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curelop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host Zeona McIntyre, aka Z Money. Z, how you doing today?
Good. I just took a big old gulp of green smoothie and I was like, why did I do that? Now I probably have green all over my face. I'm just all greened up. I'm over here chomping. All over your face.
Yeah. And where are you at right now, Z? Because you've got the most sophisticated background. You look all professional. I feel like I'm talking to a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this guy's not a lawyer. He's in real estate, but he's in real estate technology. That I'm in a pet sit. We have stayed here maybe 7 times. It's this really fancy lodge on the top of a mountain overlooking this valley in Estes Park. And so pet sitting is awesome, guys. If you haven't checked it out, reach out. Happy to talk to you about it. But it is definitely the way that we house hack these days. So we love it.
And so how much are you getting for your place? Because I suspect you're renting out your condo in Boulder. What are you getting for it this time?
Yeah. So, I don't have an exact price. I think it's, actually I do know. It's $1,800 for, I think it's just a 5 days or 6 days because it's over Thanksgiving.
Dang. And so what's your mortgage payment a month on that?
Our mortgage payment is $2,100.
Look at that.
So that's pretty much all of it. I know.
Yeah, less than a week and you're getting your whole mortgage paid for. Man, it's like you could have written a book on this stuff or something. Oh, wait, you did.
I could have.
Yeah.
It's in the book, yes, a little bit, but it's definitely not the focus of the book.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's the pet sitting house hack. I think is a great idea. Speaking of great ideas, we got the big Cammy Whammy Jammy coming on the show today. Cam Cooper from Atlanta, Georgia. He came and he kind of delivered. He's kind of a pinch hitter for us. We had a guy call out sick today, and he was there to step in, and he did such a phenomenal job. And yeah, Cam's got a great story, super inspirational. He had to deal with an eviction on his second house hack, so definitely listen through to get there. And and before we get to the show, I want to remind you guys that if you haven't already checked out thefiteam.com and the resources we offer, there's a bunch of things for house hackers. We've got, if you're in Denver area, we've got our list of contractors. We've got a case study book, so a bunch of people that have house hacked. You can see their numbers. We've got a whole house hacker starter kit, calculators, a whole bunch of stuff. Go in there, check it out. It's all free to you guys. We want to provide value and make sure that you're well equipped for your next house hack. So go check it out. And now let's get to the show. Cam Cooper, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today, dude?
I'm excited. I'm just kind of like a dream come true. It's just crazy to when your idols become people here on a podcast with. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, dude, we got the same initials. You're the man because we actually had a cancellation earlier and you freaking hopped in like the MVP that you are. So we got a pinch hitter, which I'm so excited to hear about your story, dude. Obviously we met kind of briefly over FaceTime. Z knows you. My boy Vince knows you. So let's hear it, man. Where does it all start? How did you first hear about financial independence?
Yeah, so I kind of really found out more about house hacking before I got into the whole FI movement. A lot of my friends were purchasing homes in the end of 2020, around that time. So I kind of thought it'd be a good idea to get in. I had some money saved up during COVID. I bought my first primary residence with the intention of house hacking it in April 2021 in the Atlanta area. And then that's when I really dove in on Craig's book, actually. Got that fully rented out, kind of did and once I started getting more into the Craig's book, into Bigger Pockets, I kind of got more into the FI space. And then from there, I've just kind of gotten more involved in the real estate investing meetup space in Atlanta. And it's really turned into a movement on my end.
What is this Craig's book you're talking about?
The House Hacking Strategy by the premier CC.
Yeah, I hear
on this podcast.
I hear that's the one of the best real estate books of all time. Maybe second best to 30 Day Stay, but we'll see. Awesome. So we're in April. You said April of 2021, right?
Yeah.
And so give us a little bit of what the market's like at this time. Is it crazy? Or you have to go in, or is this when things kind of slow down a little bit?
So this is kind of right when things started to pick up a little bit. I'll just give you an idea. I put an offer in that got accepted for like 8 or 9% over list price at the time, and that was kind of what set me apart from the other offers at the time. And interest rates are still pretty good, so that's kind of when it started to tick up a little bit.
Yeah. So was there anything at this time in your life that was like painful, which made you think like, okay, I don't want to work a job the rest of my life, or what was that like aha moment that happened in 2021?
Well, I mean, I had just hit 13 months or about a year of working fully remote. My whole team worked in Texas at the time, and I had been living with somebody else, and it's part of their house hack. And I figured, there's got to be a way that I can, make this flexible work situation work a little bit better for me. And he kind of got me into Bigger Pockets and the notion of some of the podcasts and the books. And that's when I found Craig's book.
It's funny. It sounds like Craig. Like when Craig started out house hacking, he would like convert all of his roommates into house hackers and like sell them real estate. It's a great way to go.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's such a good way to do it, right? Like it's so cool to see you on here as a tenant of a house hacker, now house hacking yourself. Like you're like second generation, which is amazing. And I think we've all been roommates before, and we've all paid people rent before. And yeah, it's funny. That's kind of how I got my like behind the curtain story. I feel like I haven't said this that much, but when I was living in San Francisco, there was a mom with 2 kids living behind a curtain in her living room, and I was in the bedroom paying rent. Yeah. And so I was like, damn, if this woman who is like, I call her my San Francisco mom, we're still in touch today, love her to death. I was like, if this woman can do it, then there's no reason why me at 24 years old can't do it. And so that was my inspiration for that. And so, same kind of story, right?
Yeah. And
Correct.
I actually
thought that you came up with the curtain, and really you're just a curtain stealer.
I'm a total. I don't think there's a new idea out there in real estate. And if there is, please let me know. It's all been done before. Pretty much everything that we've ever done is just like rip off and duplicate, right?
Yeah, and I've actually, a couple of my tenants / roommates who've lived with me in the house hack since then have gone on to house hack as well. So it's kind of, it's the positive pandemic that's spreading. It's just the spreading the house hacking idea.
Okay, so let's break it down. This sounds like it's your
For real deal.
real
This is
deal.
the first deal you ever did, intentional or not intentional. But for you, Cam, it sounds like this was a very intentional deal as a house hack. So give us all the deets. Spill the tea. What did you buy? What was the price? Mortgage payment, rents. Give it all to us.
Yeah. So originally going into it, knowing I was going to house hack, I was really trying to find small multifamily or something with like a finished basement, like a 3-2 up top, something like that in Atlanta. Those were really hard to come by at the time. And those that were on the market where you're going way above asking price. And at the time, I was in a previous role where I didn't have the salary that I have now. So I kind of had to get a little bit creative. And I didn't really want to employ the rent by the room strategy. I kind of wanted to have my cake and eat it too and get right into a multifamily, but it wasn't in the cards at the time. So I bought, it was originally a 3-2 that the previous owner converted into a 4-3 by enclosing the carport. So that's kind of where I lived. And then the 3-2 was on the other side of the house. So I had like my own exit entryway and my own bathroom. And I was right next to the kitchen as well. So the purchase price was $300,000. Like I said, it sold above list at that time. It was a pretty hot market. The rate that I got was like 3.125%. So it was solid at the time, 5% down conventional. And I think at the time, my mortgage payment was right around $1,700, like $1,710. And I rented out the other 3 bedrooms. At the time, I was renting that out for right around $2,100. So depending on the size of the bedroom and if it had a bathroom or not, there was different tiers to the pricing, but it overall came in at like $2,100.
So I love that you were living in a carport. Like, it was fully converted, right? Like, do you have a kitchen? Like, what's your situation in there?
It was honestly just like a large master bedroom. There was no extra kitchen. There probably is the opportunity to put a little kitchenette in there, but it was just a large bedroom with its own bathroom. Pretty large bathroom too. There was no true closet. The closet was in the bathroom, but yeah, it was just a glorified master bedroom.
Nice.
How was the insulation and stuff in that unit? Because I suspect there wasn't heat going to there unless you went ahead and added that. Like, was it cold? Was it hot? How did that feel?
We might have lost him again. The insulation was actually fine. We still had AC kind of. It was what's it called, the from the ground AC. It sat on a crawl space, so they were able to still get some AC in there. Light and water would run through there totally fine. The one issue was I was hanging up my closet in the bathroom, and it was on metal studs because they had to kind of put it inside of the masonry of the carport. So that was kind of a interesting find when I had to hang the closet, and I had to use like 4 or 5 different drill bits just to get the closet to hang on the studs that were in there.
So to get it to, where you could rent it for $2,100, did you have to do any renovations, or was it just like ready to go?
The only major thing that I had to do was on the back side of the house, there was just like kind of like maybe 48 inch drop off from the back door, which is certainly a liability issue if tenants were to walk out the back door. So I ended up putting like a 12 by 14 deck out there. And that ended up being like a nice little, amenity for the guests, but that was really it. Unfortunately, I did that right during like Memorial Day weekend of 2021 when labor prices had never been higher. But besides that, we just we repainted the interior, and that was really it. Just getting the deck built and painting. That was it.
Nice. So what were some things that you kind of learned through this that you changed or did differently going into your next deal?
It's funny. I think I got all of my roommates off of Facebook in some capacity, like Facebook Marketplace. I was a little bit concerned that maybe I wasn't as apt at screening those tenants as I would for the next property that I bought, which actually was totally the role reversal, which I can get into after this. But I was a little bit nervous about that. I think I was a little bit concerned about how to like mitigate conflict between tenants if that ever arose, because there were tenants who were sharing a bathroom. But that was never actually really an issue, and parking was totally fine. This was, by my standards, a pretty smooth sailing property. It still is today, fully rented out. So, yeah.
Before we head off into the next one, I want to kind of get a feel for, so it sounds like you're getting $2,100 in rent. Your mortgage payment was about $1,700. So you're living for free. What did you do about utilities? Did you split that up amongst the roommates? Did you include that in the rent? How did you handle that?
Yeah, so I split that up amongst the roommates. I work for AT&T utility provider, so I got a better deal on some of the utilities that we received. But we ended up, that was in the lease agreement, that we would split utilities evenly 4 different ways. And there was no real issue with that.
So at the end of every month, were you like, looking at the water bill, looking at the electric bill, looking at the gas bill, adding it all up, dividing by 5 and sending Venmos out? Is that kind of how you did it? And is that how you'd recommend doing it in the future?
Yeah, so that's how I did it. I think that's the way that I still do it now, even with the other room rented out. I do like some utilities have now moved into other tenants' names. I haven't really found a better way to do it unless I bake it in, which I might start doing now once I get the new leases rolled over in 2023. I might just bake in the utilities into the rent because it might be easier than chasing people down for Venmo, especially if folks move out and stuff. So that's been the one kind of tricky situation. Yeah.
So when I was a property manager, I would give people just a set price depending on the house split, but you could just say, oh, utilities like on average are $40 a month. And so just make it $40 for them. And so that's still
Right.
separate from their rent, because if you advertise it as a higher rent, that's like $50 more, you might not get as many tenants just because of the rent price. Right.
Mhm.
So I don't know,
Yeah.
just a tip.
I used to always tack on a utility fee. And so I would, at the time it was $75, but utilities are probably more expensive now. So maybe $100 per bedroom. And so you're going to get $400 a month more in rent, which actually may look good, when going to a lender and look at your next property when when your leases are, $700 plus $100 of utility. And then they're seeing those $800 come in each month. So yeah, I think there's so many ways that you can do it. I wouldn't say there's a right or a wrong way, just whatever is more preferable to you. But yeah.
Oh, great point.
Cool. Well, so you were in this property for 1 year. You got most of your tenants from Facebook Marketplace. Was it exactly 1 year when you moved out and bought the next one?
No. So I bought that in April 2021, and then I ended up getting a little more involved in the Atlanta REI meetup throughout the rest of that year. I ended up partnering up with somebody in buying an investment property not too far down the street in December of 2021, with the intention of renting that out to a single family. That was a little bit of a train wreck for this first year. We can get into that, but I ended up staying in that first house until October of 2022, so about a month ago. And then I actually moved into the investment property that I bought kind of as a temporary stay for now.
So did you find your partner in the real estate meetup? Like, was it just somebody that you met as you were going there?
I actually found everybody else. So I found my lender, my realtor, all the contractors I needed for some of the rehab. But the partner was actually somebody, extended family.
Okay. I want to hear about the train wreck. What happened?
Yeah. So, like I said, I bought this as a pure investment property, long-term rental at the time when interest rates kind of allowed for that to kind of be a thing. I bought it in early December of 2021, and it was totally turnkey. The previous owner was an investor who had flipped it, and it was a quick close. We actually closed right around Thanksgiving time of last year, and that was kind of what got our offer accepted, was the ability to close within, I think it was 16 days from getting under contract.
Oh, wow.
In that time, basically, the first mortgage wasn't until February of 2022. So I was like, if I can get somebody in here, I can kind of, increase the cash flow for this year. So I basically got a not so great tenant in there, which I thought was totally fine because I screened them through Zillow. It ended up being a bit of a mess. I got rent for December, January, partial in February, late in March, and then I never actually got rent from them again. So I had to go through the whole eviction process, which was kind of brutal. On top of some other things, we had to replace a sewer line in that time. We had to replace the whole HVAC system. We had to do a lot of stuff that I wasn't necessarily planning on doing, because I thought just stuff that I had missed on the inspection. So it was a little bit of a financial lesson this year, but I'm in there now and I'm ready to house hack that one too.
So what was this partnership like with you, and how did this go down? Because you had a partnership with someone in your family, and you have all these unforeseen expenses that you probably didn't warn them of upfront. And so, what was it like going to them and saying, hey, I need an extra 10 grand for the sewer, I need whatever it is?
Yeah. So I guess the partnership they were an equity partner. So they basically provided funding for the down payment. And then I was the managing partner, and basically we kind of split the equity that way. I actually, once we closed, I financed a lot. I financed the sewer and I financed the HVAC replacement as well. So I just basically got 0% interest credit cards for 18 months and kind of figured it out that way. So that was, thankfully, I was able to do it that way and not really have to pay more with interest, things like that.
I feel like that's really interesting. People don't bring that up very often, but a 0% credit card is a good way to handle some unforeseen expenses. If you can pay with credit, sometimes the sewer company won't allow it. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, thankfully the sewer company had actually partnered up with a local credit union to kind of create that product, or else I would not have been able to to take that ticket.
So how did you find this deal? Was it off market or?
So yeah, it was actually on market. I was on the MLS at the time. I was actually, so the guy who runs the Atlanta Real Estate Meetup actually was my realtor, my buddy Vince. He basically sent me a text. I told him that I was looking to buy by the end of the year, buy an investment property, like a long-term buy and hold. And I basically told him, I was like, I kind of want to do this. And he said, well, the week before Thanksgiving is kind of a pretty good time for buyers to get in because there's not a lot of folks doing open houses. They're kind of preparing for the holiday. So we went to go see it on a Sunday before Thanksgiving, got under contract on Monday. And Vince had a good relationship with the listing agent, and was basically able to leverage the lender that he had kind of used in the past to get that quick close. So it was kind of a perfect storm at that time, and it was all really fast.
Yeah, I'm amazed you could get financing. So it's like one thing if you're doing like a cash deal, but you were able to actually get a loan in 16 days?
I'm trying to do the math in my head. I think we got into contracts like maybe November 22nd or 23rd of last year, and we closed on December 9th. So that's like 16, 17, 18 days.
Wow, that's
Dang,
incredible
that
for a
is
lender.
really
fast.
fast.
During the holiday. Yeah. During the holiday too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Cool. So now your new pivot is to go in there and do what you know how to do and just be like, all right, screw it. I'm going to house hack this because this like single family thing is not really working for me. Is that right?
Yeah. So the eviction process took a little bit longer than even I was prepared for. We had just gotten the tenant out there in the end of October. It was a good opportunity to move in there with my partner for the time being, because that was just a step we wanted to make, kind of a silver lining there. And then, I plan to buy again at some point in Q1 of 2023. And I have friends who are moving up to Atlanta to live in the bottom level, the split level. So it'll end up being sort of a friendly house hack that way.
Let's talk about the juice here. Let's talk about this eviction. And so like it sounds like you were kind of dealing with them from like February, March of 2022 all the way to October of 2022. And so why don't you tell us, obviously every state is a little bit different, but evictions are something that happen in real estate. And so can you tell us a little bit about like, okay, when did you decide that you needed to evict? How did you go about that process? What was that process like? 'Cause I think that's like a kind of like a mystery for a lot of people.
Yeah. It was definitely more of an emotional kind of test than it was even a financial one, I would say. It was one of those things where as time went on, I kind of uncovered more details about who this tenant was. I realized that there was some falsified information on the rental application and some falsified maybe tax documentation on the screening process. So I found that out after a while, and then I got in contact with her old landlord, not the person that she put as a reference on the application, and found out that she had sort of done the same thing to him. And the timing worked out where she basically moved directly from his house to my place. So I was sort of none the wiser at the time. But it was I got an attorney for the trial, but it's not something that you necessarily need. It's something you can kind of do by yourself. And there's agencies or companies that can kind of help you through that entire process. But definitely, a test of patience, but it all worked out.
Awesome. So what did
I feel like you're such a good sport about it.
Yeah, I know. I was like, so how much did that end
Smartly.
up costing you? Like, at the end of the day.
So as far as like missed rent and things like that, or just like, thankfully, the attorney that I used was actually a friend, so I didn't have to put anybody on retainer or anything. I was able to use a lot of like free legal resources online. I think all in all, the majority of the cost was certainly lost rent. But I think, as far as with the courthouse and scheduling the actual labor out there, was probably somewhere between $600 and $700.
Okay.
But the missed rent was like on the order of over $10,000.
Oh man, that's a bummer. So why, when you were looking at the second deal, did you not want to do a rent by the room? Like, I mean, I get that it couldn't be a house hack because you couldn't move that soon, but just knowing the numbers on that versus single family, why did you make that choice?
I think at the time it was a little bit of a time crunch as well. I closed in early December. I was going to be basically unavailable for the last 2 weeks of December, first week of January. And I figured if I can get a tenant in there quickly and sort of like take advantage of not paying the mortgage for the first 45 days until it actually hit in February, I could maybe recoup some of that capital or, some of that profit that I would have had when rent by the room. So it was something that I had considered, but I didn't necessarily have the time, which is not really a great excuse. But at the time, this just seemed to like line up perfectly, if you will.
Therein lies the issue, man. Anything that gets rushed always ends up being worse than it is. Like,
Yeah.
It's just,
100%.
I've done I think everyone's probably made this mistake where you're trying to get tenants in as quickly as possible before your trip or before X, Y, and Z happens, or especially before that first mortgage hits. And you always end up getting burned. Like, it's always, and now you lost 6 months of rent, right? So, the cliche in real estate is the only thing worse than no tenant is a bad tenant, and a bad tenant really, really sucks. So I guess if you're listening to this is the lesson learned, that even if you've got holiday and trip plans and your life is not just wait the 2 weeks, it's better to lose 2 weeks of rent than it is to lose 6 months of rent. So there's the lesson.
So I don't think we went into the numbers. Tell us what you got it for and what the mortgage is, and then kind of what you're thinking it's going to be when you get your house hack buddies in.
Sure. So yeah, we closed on that in early December. So I think the purchase price on that was $360, and the rate and the investor rate at the time was, I think, 4.3%. The property taxes were a little bit higher on this property, so the mortgage payment was actually right around $2,000 or $2,050, and I was renting it out at the time for $2,600. Which that area, that part of Atlanta, I anticipate we should see some rental growth increases, even if it was just a single family long term. When I do the house hack coming up, it's going to be an interesting situation. Basically, my girlfriend lives there, and then my best friend and his fiance are moving into the bottom part of the split level. My intention, at least until I make my next purchase, is to kind of just break even. So kind of split that 2050 number amongst the other tenants until we move out, until I find another place, the next house hack in February or March. But after that, I plan to rent the upstairs, probably to get right back at that 2,600 number.
Nice.
So this is your second property, right? The one that you had a partner on?
Yes.
Okay. And so if you're just breaking even on that, what is your partner thinking about just breaking even? I'm sure he or she wants some cash flow, right? Or where they stand.
Yeah. So that's kind of been a discussion that we're kind of working through. Is I think in the meantime, it's primarily focused on the equity, I guess, during that time, and it's known that it's a temporary, it's will only be for a couple of months, and then we'll get back to that higher level of cash flow in Q1 of this coming year.
Okay.
So I'm going to pause for a moment to do an ad for everybody. So if you guys don't know, I have a meetup group called Airbnb Investing, and in that group, we are going to start offering a course. And Cam here is actually going to be teaching it. So Cam does a similar thing with the Atlanta REI meetup group. He does a course on financial independence. Maybe Cam can speak to this a little bit better, and just beginner real estate investing. But this course is going to be on medium-term rentals. And so Cam, Vince, and I are putting together the curriculum, and then I will be popping in here and there for some Q&A and help, but Cam will be teaching it. So if you guys are looking for a course, let us know. It's going to be available next year. And now back to the show. Cool. So actually, Cam, why don't you tell us a little bit about the REI Pro thing that you do with Vince?
Yeah. So right after I purchased my first house hack, I had gotten a little bit more involved in the meetup, and I wanted to meet other house hackers who were doing this thing in Atlanta. There were a handful, but Atlanta at that time was primarily just investment property burrs and flips and things like that. And I wanted to kind of make a little more of a cohesive network of folks who were kind of specifically house hacking, or people who were kind of doing the same thing that I was doing. Vince ended up doing that for a little while as well. But we had gotten together and we had seen how there was some success in other larger real estate meetup groups in other cities that had like this kind of smaller cohort of like an accountability group. And there's another Atlanta RIA meetup where there's like an accountability group and you can kind of like walk through getting to your first deal, groups like that. And we didn't really have that. So we kind of got together and put together 6 months of curriculum and kind of determined a meeting time. We had in-person and virtual sessions. And there was a lot of folks who were looking to use that to kind of springboard into getting their first property. So that's something that Vince and I sort of created. And it's been a really great, learning opportunity and to get to know some of these folks in the meetup a lot better.
And so what kind of success have you seen through that? Do you feel like people are actually taking a little more action than they would have on their own, or moving maybe a little bit faster?
Mm-hmm. I definitely think it's an interesting time to like see the transition for some of these people, right? Because I think there's a little bit of fear in the market for some investors, and there's been a handful of folks in the group. There's about 15 of us in the group right now, and I've heard stories about people closing. I mean, there's some very experienced people in the group. I mean, I know somebody who closed on a mobile home park last 2 weeks ago. There's also some folks who are looking to buy their first house hack, and people have put in multiple offers, and people have gotten offers accepted. So I think with the group kind of working together and providing that support network, I think that if that hadn't been there, who knows if they would have made that next step to action.
I love it. Yeah, definitely. Craig and I both have meetups that we have here in Colorado. Craig's team's got a lot of them. So if you guys are looking for meetups, they're definitely a great place to just get you a community of like-minded investors, because a lot of people tell us, oh man, like nobody I know invests in real estate and everybody thinks it's a bad idea. So sometimes you just have to get around the right kind of people that can help you along your way. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, what do you think?
Well, Cam, I want to hear right now a little bit more about your whole portfolio as of today. And so what is that first house renting out for? I know you mentioned you probably raised the rents a little bit there. How much are you renting out that extra carport room? You've got the house hack that you're living in now. And so like, where's your passive income at, and where do you think you want to go?
Yeah. So this past 60 days has been interesting because I'm getting some income from the eviction house, for lack of a better term. And I moved out of the other house. So I rented out my bedroom for $900. So that's bringing in about $3,000 or maybe probably about $1,000 in cash flow. Awesome. After I put away for expensive things like that. I'm still sort of breaking even because I'm splitting the rent at the eviction house for now until the end of December, when I get my other friends kind of moving downstairs. So as of right now, I'm still kind of where I was when I left the house hack. I will say, if I wasn't house hacking my first property, that eviction would have been probably catastrophic. Not to dramatize the situation, but I would not have been in a situation where floating those two mortgages simultaneously would have it would have been really tough. So house hacking really, really helped me kind of make it through that time.
Yeah, and you're gonna have a situation like that where like you are gonna lose money for a little bit on a deal, and you have to just float it, and of course zoom out 5-10 years, and you won't even notice those payments. But how did you float those? So obviously the house hack, that's giving you $1,000 a month. Are you also working a W-2 job?
Yeah. So I work a W-2 job. I work in data analytics for AT&T, like I said. And thankfully I was offsetting a lot of those living expenses at the time. Really just allowed me to make those payments. And we did our due diligence on the front end. Me and my partner, we were pre-approved based off of what I would be able to pay if we were in this type of situation. So we would have qualified for a much larger or more expensive home, but we got pre-approved for what I could pay in the worst case scenario at the time.
Okay, that's perfect. And so it sounds like you're still, I mean, obviously you're still pretty early on in your journey, right? You're kind of in year 2, going on year 3 here. And so
Mhm.
when do you foresee yourself, maybe, like, is the ultimate goal to quit your W-2 job? Is that like the next big bogey that you've got?
I feel like eventually I would, that is kind of the long-term goal. It feels kind of weird to say because I do talk to people at work about that sometimes, and I'm like, it's weird to have a conversation with folks at work saying that I might not want to be there one day. It has nothing to do with the job itself. It's just that I really, there's a passion that I have about real estate that doesn't exist at my W-2 job. And that's not to say anything bad about my job, but I love working with people, who are also trying to house hack or trying to get involved in the real estate. Like this REI Pro group is something that has become a bit of a passion of mine, and I want to kind of chase that, while it's there.
Wait, so you're telling me that you're not absolutely obsessed with analyzing the electricity usage of people in Atlanta? Blows my mind.
I think in a past life I might have been,
Yeah.
but not as much anymore.
No, man, I think that's
Nice.
great, dude. I think you're definitely well on your way. Atlanta's such an amazing place to house hack as well, and you've got the right people around you. So yeah, Z, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'm just curious now, looking forward. We are here at like Thanksgiving week when we're filming this. And so you're almost at a year with this other house, and it actually doesn't even matter because that one was bought as an investment. When do you think you'll be going into the next home, and what kind of strategy do you think you would do after this?
Yeah. So the timeline for that. So I have tenants moving in the end of December timeframe. So that should be totally stabilized by January 1. I'm aiming to have something under contract by my birthday, which is in mid-February. And
Okay.
I'm still trying to do the house hack model, but I've definitely been more and more interested in kind of doing an MTR myself. So I'm looking specifically in a part of Atlanta that's kind of near Emory and near Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Hospital, and there's a couple other hospitals in that area, like North Decatur, if you guys are familiar with it. And I'm looking specifically for kind of that split level or that up down duplex style single family home with a finished basement and renting the part of that space out to a traveling nurse. So that's kind of the main strategy I'm trying to employ on this next buy.
So do you feel like my book is just like leaking into your brain? It's like, oh no, now I need to do this strategy.
I feel like in a combination of what I've experienced with the rate environment changing in this past year and understanding that what the eviction did as far as like my perspective on long-term rentals, it was kind of the perfect storm with the book coming along the way as well. I don't know if you could see, I got the couple of post-it notes and stuff, and I've been tearing into it.
Awesome.
But it makes a lot of sense. I think, not to totally go on a tangent here, I would have been more interested in MTRs sooner if I wasn't so maybe naively deterred by like furnishing costs. But I like looking at it now, it makes so much more sense to do it that way. So I think it was one of those things that I was like, I don't want to furnish it. I want to like have tenants move in there and do long-term rentals. But looking at it now, it makes a lot more sense with the cash flow upside that you get with an MTR. And I don't have the tenant screening process kind of baked into the job. So I know I'm getting like a solid tenant who should be able to pay on time based off of their qualifications with their W-2. So it just makes a lot more sense, and the strategy's really spoken to me.
Awesome.
Cam or Zeona, I've got a question for you guys, and maybe you both can answer. But what do you think is the payback of furnishing, right? So if you're going to take $10,000 to furnish a place, how much more in rent could you get? And when do you how long does it need to be a medium-term rental for it actually to pay off?
So the way I look at it is when I'm first moving, like I'm going to buy this place, I bake it into my cash on cash return. So it's just my upfront expenses. And I still want to see a 15% cash on cash return. That's like my level. I've talked to some people that just need 10%. Everybody's a little different. But if you are taking a property you already own and then you have to add that in, I don't know if there's a perfect way, and maybe one of you guys will have a good idea. But for me, I look at it kind of like I have properties where I've added a hot tub and I go, okay, this is going to be like $8,000, but I think that it's going to be bringing X amount more. And, maybe that takes me a couple months to pay it off or half a year to pay it off. But going forward, the hot tub's not going anywhere. So it's just going to be returns down the way. And I think it just brings more tenants through. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think there's also like a way that you can optimize the furnishing as well. I feel like, there's ways that you could get the most bang for your buck for the furnishing, as there's like a cash and cash return of just the down payment or upfront costs for the furnishing as well. And you could find high quality things for value. And that's something that I've begun to learn as I've read some of the chapters in this book.
Yeah, I think the thing to just stay away from is like not wasting too much time in pursuit of something really cheap. So what I tell people a lot is like, if you are house hacking and you're like, oh, I'm going to move into the next place, like either leave your furniture and rent that place furnished, or bring your furniture to the next place. And like you were saying, if you have an up-down duplex, put the furniture that you guys personally have in that lower unit and rent it out to a nurse right away. And you slowly get your furniture, right? Because then you can get the perfect couch and wait till you find something cool and, but don't waste time keeping that unit empty when you could just rent it immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're getting like $100 a day or something, and that's probably pretty low, that's like a $3,000 a month. You have to think about that cost, right? And so are you really if it's going to take you 3 extra days to get a couch, you need to get at least a $300 discount on that couch, which you're probably not going to use. And so to Z's point, like time, very much time is money when it comes to furnishing. Again, these things buttoned up.
Yeah. All right. Well, we need to transition to the second part of our show. But before we do, Cam, do you have any final words of wisdom for the listeners?
I feel like my experience in these last 2 years or so has been interesting in a sense that I had like a really awesome experience with house hacking and then a not so great experience with the eviction and long-term rental. I feel like it was just a massive testament to, you're not necessarily, real estate is not a get rich quick scheme, right? It's a testament to patience and getting to know people and getting to like empathize with your tenants. And that all of that learning has been, wealth that's been built along the way, if you will, and it's made me, a more shrewd investor in the future. So, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but overall, I think I'm still better for it all, and it's only made me hungrier to continue in the pursuit.
Yeah, I like that because really it's kind of like you're paying for your education, right? So it's almost like you go on to like real estate university and it's like, well, that sewer was $10,000 and this was this. And, so you're just paying for it in a different way and doing it over time. But yeah, you won't be making those mistakes again. So that's the good part.
Yeah. And do a sewer scope in your inspection.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Always.
I won't make that mistake again.
Please do it. Do all of the inspections, like structural, sewer. Like it's just not worth it. It's not the couple $100 is not worth the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars later. Totally.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Z. You know what time it is?
It's time for
the final four. You left me hanging, you jerk. All right, Z, kick us off.
No, I think we have a little delay.
Oh, delay. Yeah, blame the delay. Kick us off, Z.
All right, Cam. So question number 1. What are you reading right now? I think I know what you're reading right now.
Well, I am reading 30-Day Stay in learning more about the NTR space. However, the book launch it rudely interrupted what I was reading before, which was Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. I actually just finished that up earlier this week. Another great book about just kind of the value of your time and building how important your team is.
Both those books are amazing. I mean, second question: what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
This one's tough. I think something that somebody told me, or I had read at some point in some book at some point. It's just seek to be the most interested person rather than being the most interesting person. I feel like when we go to meetups sometimes, especially in the meetup space, people want to flaunt about how many doors, how much cash flow they have, and which is great if you're experienced, and obviously people will flock to that. But I feel like when you truly make connections in that space is when you seek to be interested in everyone else's success or what they're doing or their questions, right? I feel like there's a lot of folks who are afraid to even ask, and I think a lot of people who are looking to make that first start need somebody who's interested in them and what they want in order to make that first big step. So that's something that I really work on with the REI Pro Group is, seeking to be interested in everyone else, and that makes you interesting.
I love that.
I really like that. Yeah, I feel like that's something I need as a reminder is not the interesting part, but I think sometimes being an introvert naturally, it's like I get overwhelmed by people, and so then it's easy to just kind of like be a wallflower. But if you can pick one person and just really be curious about them, it kind of helps you break down some of those barriers and, I don't know, connect on a deeper level. So I think that's really great. Question number 3, what is your why?
I love this. So it's kind of appropriate that this is happening while I'm down, staying with my parents for the holiday. It's just the freedom of choice. Having found real estate and having found financial independence, and it's definitely stirred up some conviction in me that I hadn't really felt based in some of my professional endeavors in the past. Follow that passion, and I want the freedom of choice to do what I want with my time, right? I don't live in the same state as my parents or my sisters, or some of my really close friends. So I want to be able to spend as much time with them as I possibly can. And I feel like real estate and, financial independence really promotes doing that. I will say one other thing too, something that I talk about a lot with my girlfriend and my friends is something that we call porch time, which is every Sunday we go to this local donut shop in Atlanta and we get coffee and we sit on the porch and we just kind of put our phones away and we just kind of enjoy a donut and enjoy some coffee while the weather's nice. And that whole notion of porch time is I want to be able to have porch time every day or whenever, doing whatever with whoever I want to have porch time with. So porch time has been kind of the symbol for my why with my family.
I feel like that'd be a lot of donuts, man. Yeah. That's a little too many donuts.
It's going to be rolling out of here before we know it. Yeah.
Nice.
All right, Cam, last question. What is the best nickname that you had growing up?
Oh man. This is a good one. I was not prepared for this question.
That's the point.
Okay, I'll go with this one. My girlfriend's good friend affectionately calls me Big Time Cammy Jammy. I do not know why.
Big Time Cammy Jammy.
And that's kind of spread like a wildfire in the friend group. So it's not from growing up, it's just from recently, but I'll take it.
I love it. All right.
If I remember well, you're pretty tall, right? So maybe you're big time because you're giant.
And she's very short, so I guess it makes sense. It's checks out.
Big Time Cammy Jammy.
Craig,
I love that.
Did you have any weird nicknames?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Return fire.
My baseball one.
Let's hear your best one.
Yeah, well, my baseball one was Craigor McGregor, so everyone called me Craigor McGregor, and and then also one time I was walking down the hallway and my Spanish teacher was just like, "Chacho muchacho," and I have no idea where that came from. And so then my best friend was walking next to me, and so he calls me Chacho. So I guess Chacho and Craigor McGregor were my top two.
That's so cute.
Yeah,
that's
I love
funny.
that.
How
I
about you,
feel
Z?
like I give a lot of people nicknames, but they don't give me names.
Z Money's definitely one of your top.
I think the most... Yeah, sure. I think my most unusual one is that my parents called me Smudge Bucket when I was a baby.
Smudge Bucket.
Yeah.
I love that.
A little smudge bucket.
All right.
Yeah.
We got big, what is it? Big Jamie, Cammy Whammy? Big Whammy, Cammy Jammy? That's it. Smudge Bucket.
That's just our nickname for each other.
Yeah,
that's
now,
just
now we're gonna get on and just call each other that from now on. Awesome, Cam. Well, so where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is @CamHacksFi, one word. And that's probably the best place to get in contact with me. I try to use that account to keep me accountable for all the trials and tribulations of what's going on in the big time Cammy Jamie's portfolio. And then you can also find me on Facebook, Cam Cooper, LinkedIn, Cam Cooper. And if you're in the Atlanta area, the Atlanta REI Meetup is the Facebook group that you want to join.
All right.
Great.
If you don't already follow Cam Hacks 5, go check him out. Cam, thanks so much for coming on the show today, man. It's a pleasure getting to know you a little bit better. And I love hearing that it hasn't been all unicorns and rainbows for you, but you had some, like you said, trials and tribulations to get through. You got through them. And hey, on the flip side of it, you're still happier, you're still wealthier, you're still richer, and you're still getting towards that goal of financial independence. So congrats.
Yeah, this is a dream come true. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Hey.
We'll talk soon. And that was big time Cammy Whammy Cammy Cooper. Z, what'd you think about Cam?
I really love Cam. So, this was probably one of his first podcasts and maybe he was nervous, but Cam is so fun and warm and sweet. So if you guys do end up in Atlanta, go to the REI meetup and meet Cam and Vince because they are really changing the way that Atlanta invests. I don't know. It's really exciting to be over there on the cutting edge and helping people get into house hacks. And especially in a market that is so affordable, it just seems like there's a lot of possibility. I think it's a great market.
Yeah, I've got a good buddy actually who buys houses in Atlanta and just doesn't rent by the room. I think he's got probably 12, 13 or 14 of them, and he just cash flows like crazy there. It's one of those few markets where prices are still relatively low, but rents are actually kind of high, and you definitely can make some good numbers work. You've got the appreciation. Atlanta's a great market.
Yep. Well, guys, I hope you learned a lot, and I hope that you reach out to Cam and to us if you have any questions. If you don't know, we can connect you with an agent anywhere in the US. And so not only do we have our own agents on our team in other markets, but we vet a lot of agents and we love to give referrals. So please let us know if you need help. And with that, we would love a rating and review. This time, I'm actually not going to ask for it for our podcast. You guys already know we want those. But if you have read The House Hacking Strategy or 30-Day Stay, leave us a review on that because those are really, really important to get them in the hands of the right investors that are looking for our information. So yeah, we would love that. Thank you so much.
All right. See you guys all next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.